to Overtime Hockey Talk. My name is Mark Paul. My co-host Justin Baker and I on today's show are rearing and ready to knock out the top 4 teams in the Western Conference. If you haven't heard our previous ranking, or previews of the preliminary round, you can go back and listen to those. But on today's show, we're going to talk all about those top teams, where we think they will ultimately fall in their rankings once they play their little warm-up games that actually count towards something, and that will determine who they will play in the actual quarterfinals, first round of the NHL playoffs. And we just want to talk about these teams and break down what's been going on, and kind of where we see them finishing, not just in these top 4, but throughout the rest of the playoffs as well. And our next show, we will focus on the Eastern Conference. So, Justin, let's get her started. I think we will respect the St. Louis Blues enough to do them first, since they are the defending Stanley Cup champions. I think it's only right that we dive right into the St. Louis Blues. In case you are, maybe been not paying attention as much to everything hockey right now, St. Louis Blues, Colorado Avalanche, the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Dallas Stars are your top 4 teams. It really doesn't matter what order you say them in, because they're not going to be in any particular order until they play these little round robin games, I guess you'd call them. So we'll start with the St. Louis Blues. Let's just give overall thoughts of the St. Louis Blues coming into these playoffs.
I couldn't be luckier, honestly. I think this is the luckiest team because for one reason and one reason only, right? This is a team that goes hard, plays hard in the playoffs, right? So getting rest, 3 months at least of rest prior to going in the playoffs, they're going to be fully healthy, fully rearing up, ready to go.
Well, they've got a healthy Tarasenko.
That's exactly it, too. A point per game player. What other team can say they've got? I mean, obviously, maybe the Colorado Avalanche, right? We can talk about their injuries and the guys they're getting back, but you talk about a team that is fully stacked and still has played. Tarasenko's only been there for 10 games. He's been out all year long. And so they've dealt with him being out the whole entire season and still managed to finish number 1 in the West. So now the number 1 team in the West is going to get a point per game player back. That only makes them better because this guy's phenomenal. Probably one of the best goal scorers, in my opinion, in the league.
When you said that they're lucky, I mean, PDO, which is their shooting percentage and save percentage, 4th highest in the league, 101.6, tied with the Boston Bruins. So, I mean, on the one hand, the 4 teams that are at the top of the PDO are all 4 teams in the top 4 of their conference: the Colorado Avalanche, Tampa Bay Lightning, Boston Bruins, St. Louis Blues. So obviously you have to be good to be lucky to be good. But the Blues, maybe out of those 4 teams, you're right, they were a team that got fortunate enough to continue scoring goals by committee despite missing their top player. Not to mention, even like Jay Bouwmeester, who I don't think is going to be back.
No. But he's like a Layla again this year, right? You got another guy to focus here and be inspired by, to rally around, right?
Yep.
So that's not, I mean, I'm sorry that all this, it sucks. I hate what happened to him because he's a fantastic player and a fantastic guy to have on a team.
Yeah.
But it's definitely going to be one of those things where you say, let's go do it for Bo. Let's win it.
Yeah, I mean, they've got 10 players with 10 goals or more. Obviously playing about 70 games. Some of them played less. They're going to get Oscar Sundqvist will be fully healthy. Tyler Bozak was hurt towards the end there, and he's definitely a guy who, like, Bozak maybe, he wasn't there. No, he was there last year. But I mean, he's somebody who can definitely show up and make an impact. He had 13 points in the 26 games they played last year in the playoffs, which is, I mean, just huge, especially considering the Blues didn't exactly score tons of goals in last year's playoffs. So he was an important part of that team. So to get him back fully healthy, the Blues are looking pretty good. I think that they're, like, out of any team, you can't be in a better position now to be able to play the way you want to play. You're fully healthy. You're not worried about the injuries coming in. It's going to be interesting to see what this Blues team can do. I think they've got as good a shot as anybody to advance. I wonder if the way that they played last year is repeatable, because there was so much intangible behind what they did. They were this hungry team. They had always underperformed in the playoffs. They had this crazy ass, like, how they went from last place to winning the Stanley Cup in a matter of months is crazy. They had a storybook season, and you can't repeat that. So now you're going in. Everyone knows you're freaking great. Now you've got to like take teams at their absolute best. You are the pin to knock down. You are no longer the underdog. Everybody has seen a year of Jordan Binnington.
Yeah, and when you talk about goaltending, right? Last year, Jake Allen, not great. Jordan Binnington comes in, steals the show. The number 3, a guy who was borrowed by another AHL team to play goal, right? Comes
Jake Allen actually having a good year.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's having a great year. So if these play-in games that you're having, you have an opportunity to rotate goaltenders, and now you can think, okay, well, if Jake Allen's playing hotter during these couple games that he's going to probably get into, let's go with this. I mean, I doubt it. I think they're going to. That'd be. Yeah, but obviously they're probably going to go with Binnington. I don't have any doubt about that. But at least now you're not really worried like you were last year. Where last year you're like, well, we can't go to our backup because Jake Allen was shit in the bed.
Right.
Now,
right.
It's like, okay, now we kind of have a little bit more faith in this guy. So maybe he can go out and steal it, and maybe Jake Allen has something to prove too, because after next season he's going to be a UFA. So is he going to sign a small money deal, or can he go out and prove it this year and next so that he can get a decent contract to finish out his career?
Yeah. On top of that, defense has a big thing to do with goaltending.
Absolutely.
Very often. And, the one addition, Justin Falk coming in from the Carolina Hurricanes. Of course, you lose Jay Bouwmeester, but I think that he was more or less, he was a 5'6" guy. He wasn't as an impact player as big of a deal. Maybe more so in the locker room, but he can still be in the locker room. You also got Marco Scandella, another decent little pickup that they had.
Yeah, both these guys, they gave contract extensions to quick too, right?
Yeah.
So that's how much they really like these guys.
And you got Vince Dunn had a pretty solid, as a 22-year-old, had 8 points in 20 games as kind of one of their bottom pairing defensemen. And he didn't have as good of a regular season this year, but was kind of, his responsibility was kind of taken away. His minutes were pulled back a little bit. But can Vince Dunn find where he's supposed to be in this lineup, which is potentially a top 4 defenseman? I think you've got at least enough depth to be able to now do this defensively, even without Jay Bouwmeester.
Yeah, let's not talk about the number 1 AP, the guy who's going to be looking for a new deal after this season. So you still got him, which is fantastic.
Yeah, and that's I think just a question for another day, maybe. But
right,
Alex Pietrangelo,
he's still going to bring it.
He's going to bring it. There's no question about it. I think he wants to stay in St. Louis. It's just a matter of can he, and
can they fit him in the cap? Really?
Does he? Yeah, because now the cap might
not go up.
Going to stay still, or it might not go up. Yeah. It's not going to be
another show.
Yes, another show. We'll see what happens with Alex Pietrangelo, but as far as we know right now, he will be playing for them in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So the St. Louis Blues certainly in a position to win a first round series, especially I'd say between the East and the West in terms of the teams that made the playoffs and could play one of these 4 teams. I'm more scared of the teams in the East through top to bottom.
Right.
All the way down to the Columbus Blue Jackets at 9 in the Eastern Conference. I don't want to, as one of these teams, I don't want to play them. Does anyone want to play the Blue Jackets? The Leafs don't want to play the Blue Jackets, but do you want to play the Blue Jackets in the...
I don't want to play the New York Rangers right now.
First round?
Right.
The Eastern Conference seems more dangerous. Am I as worried about, let's say the Vancouver Canucks coming in and beating me if I'm St. Louis? Not really. Do I think the Minnesota Wild are going to beat the St. Louis Blues? Absolutely not. I don't think that I'm even that worried about the Nashville Predators because they can't score.
Yeah, maybe not.
I think they're overrated. They had a great year a few years ago, and now they're not the team that they once were. I don't think there's as many scary teams in the West.
No, won't disagree with you. I think West is definitely a lot more top heavy.
Certainly top heavy. Now, these four teams I'm scared of.
Oh, absolutely.
These four teams, and I think there's maybe a couple that you could warrant going. I don't really want to play them, but I think that St. Louis Blues, they will be a team to be reckoned with in these playoffs. That until one of these top five, they were one goal away from losing to the Stars in OT, so they were that close to not advancing. A series between the Blues and the Stars again,
that'd be fun.
It's a toss-up. But then that's the thing about the Blues is I don't think that they were head and shoulders better and happened to win the cup too. They just were hot and won the cup. Okay, we'll give predictions at the end. We'll rank everybody and do that. But I brought up the Dallas Stars. Let's go Dallas Stars next.
Very classy move. I like it.
Hey, can I say classy man?
Man, Dallas. I mean, what can you say about this? I think really there's bright spots and then also spots on this team where, when you talk about three facets, goaltending, defense, and forwards, I think there's some really good spots and some spots on this team that I'm just totally worried about, right? Because depth, I think, is the biggest concern more than anything else when you look at forward, defense, and goaltending. And when I say goaltending, I mean basically, Ben Bishop's the guy, but he's been injury prone, right? Obviously, he's a guy that I think could go out and steal a series for this team, but if he gets injured, I don't know how much I'm, going to rely on, Anti-Khudobin to really
He's
do
played
it for
pretty
me.
darn well.
He's played pretty darn well, but I don't know come playoff time if I'm really
Just a 930 save percentage.
Yeah, just don't.
not that good.
Yeah, I don't know if again. I have my doubts about him in goal in terms for the playoffs. So because obviously I haven't really seen much of him in the playoffs, so I don't know what I'm going to get. Now, same goes with the forward position, right? Obviously, we know about this team up front. Obviously, they got Jamie Benn, who, honestly, kind of a down year, right? I mean, he kind of turned it on a little bit towards the end, but for most of the season, his production hasn't been where you think it would be. Tyler Seguin, again, a guy who I consistently expect more out of, but again, he's a superstar player in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, between those two guys, they only had 36 goals.
Only.
Between your two top guys getting paid.
And Tyler Seguin just is coming off 40 goal years. I mean, not that far back. And then you look at, again, a guy like...
They had one 20-goal scorer.
Rupe Hintz?
Dennis Gurinov.
Oh, right.
He had 20 goals and 9 assists.
Yeah.
And they just couldn't score. I mean,
No, not at all.
7.6% shooting is the third worst. The two teams underneath, the Detroit Red Wings and the Los Angeles Kings.
Ouch. Don't put me in that company.
Right.
But Joe Pavelski, right?
Very likely very unlucky.
Oh, I'm sure a lot of it is.
That's so low.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be that low.
Again, Joe Pavelski, a guy who they brought in to anchor that second line, to put some, net front production in front for that team, who could, anchor a second power play so that you don't have to consistently roll out, Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin.
Yeah, a guy who the last time he had less than 60 points outside of a lockout year was 2009-10 when he had 51 points in 67 games. I mean, he's been so consistent, and 64 points last year, 38 goals, and this year 31 points, 17 goals, the lowest amount of goals in his career playing a full season. I mean, his rookie season he played 46 games, so we're not going to count that. Lockout season he scored 16, but 14 goals.
Right, you talk about the other goal scorer they brought in too, Corey Perry. Now, expectations were nowhere near as high for this guy.
Sure.
But I mean, honestly, he only put up 5 goals. I expected probably 10 goals from this guy, especially because he's getting top line production.
Yeah, I mean, he had 6 goals in 31 games last year, so you'd think that in about 60 games he could get at least 10. But
but
even fewer goals.
He's getting opportunities to play on the top power play, top line with Tyler Seguin. You think 10 goals would be more than possible at this point.
He's terrible.
Yeah, it's just not working out.
We've been saying that for a few years.
Well, yes, absolutely. But again, they have the ability to be great up front because they have these superstar named players, these guys who we know in the past have, done the goal scoring, but they're not doing it, and so that's my biggest concern for a team like this, for sure.
Yeah, and when Dennis Gurianov is your top goal scorer coming in, 2015 draft pick in the first round, but he kind of came out of nowhere. He played 21 games last year and had 1 goal. This year in 64 games, he's got 20 goals. So really, I mean, I'm sure that there's been development happening for him, but sort of a lucky, he falls into your lap type of guy coming in at 23 years old, and he's able to have that type of production from 1 goal every 20 games to a goal every 3. That's fortunate. I mean, without him, where are you? So it'll be interesting to see for the Dallas Stars. They play such a different game than any other team in the league, really.
Any team in this top 4 for the West, for sure.
Yeah, there's no other team with such expectations that doesn't score goals.
It's crazy to me. I mean, luckily, again, Ben Bishop can steal a series if need be. So if he can stay healthy, right, they could ride him and get a little, could win a round or two. Sure. And then same goes with that defense. I love Miro Heiskanen. I think he's going to be probably, in my opinion, he probably will be better than, most of those Buffalo defensemen. We won't talk about him, but, Rasmus Dahlin, I think he's better than him. So, and then John Klingberg, again, another guy you can throw up there with the upper echelon of defensemen. A guy that has the capability,
offensive defenseman, absolutely,
to put up production. So, but then again, when you talk about it on the flip side, again, the depth, they've got some names like Esa Lindell, but these are guys that aren't going to put up big points for you. So, if they go dry on that back end, it's going to be really tough for them to beat some of these powerhouse teams that score a lot of goals in the West. Your St. Louis's and your Colorados. So
to me, the biggest question is can that Sagan, Ben, Radulov line find their way again? And then after that, it's the same old question: who else is going to score for you?
Right.
Because we know in the playoffs that those top lines don't always score. So you have to get production from underneath. I don't know who it's going to come from, because it's clear that it probably isn't coming from Pavelski, and that's who it was supposed to come from.
Well, that's who they're hoping. Yeah, absolutely. So, maybe Rupe Hintz can step up, Radek Faska, maybe, but again,
more of a defensive type of guy. Yeah. Not really the guy you're looking to rely on for big points. It's too bad, like an Andrew Cogliano, he started to show some hints of offense, and he kind of has fallen apart offensively since he got to Dallas. He was at least like a 30 point guy in Anaheim and was putting up 15-ish goals, and he came to Dallas and now he can't score more than 3 goals. It's kind of what seems to happen to people. They go to Dallas and all of a sudden they can't produce anymore because, I don't know, it seems like they're trying to play different, like they're playing this defensive style, but as far as ownership is concerned, they're like, why aren't we scoring more goals? And we all know about ownership of the Dallas Stars. Okay, well, there's the Dallas Stars, probably in my mind, out of these 4 teams, the weakest.
Wouldn't disagree with you. Yeah, absolutely.
But they play such a tight game, and they do have the right players to do it, that they still, of course, have a chance to win a series, maybe 2. I don't see them doing more than that. Let's go Vegas or Colorado?
Let's do Colorado.
All right, the Colorado Avalanche, the luckiest team in the NHL, highest PDO in the league at and 5th highest shooting percentage at 10.2%. So just to throw it out there.
Just to throw it out there.
Doesn't always mean everything. This is a team that was unlucky in every other way the rest of the season.
Yeah, you're not kidding. And when you talk about luck getting back, we talked about St. Louis getting back Tarasenko. I mean, luckily for them, and to me, the biggest missing piece for this team that I think is going to put them over the top is getting Kadri back healthy. This is a 30-goal scorer guy who can, bring that offense on that second line. And I would be worried if I was other teams.
Well, now you've got a healthy Rantanen, a healthy McKinnon, a healthy healthy Kadri, and that's you. And not to Landeskog as well, who missed a good amount of games.
And you don't have to rely on that trio anymore. You can throw Rantanen down with Kadri if you want to.
Yeah. Even like Matt Calvert missed almost 20 games this year. Matt Calvert is a pretty solid third line type of guy. He had 25 points in 50 games. He's a 40-point guy throughout the year, and Colin Wilson missed all but 9 games. He played the first 9 games of the year and got hurt.
And you're going to get your starting goaltender back too?
I don't know if he's going to be back. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure about that
either. But I know that he got hurt really early on. He was the last thing in his notes is that on November 7th he was using crutches and is nowhere near a return. But my assumption is that he's back. It's not too many injuries that are 9 months. So
yeah,
my assumption Colin Wilson is back. And Colin Wilson, I mean, he's a potential, like, he's definitely getting in the top 9. That's an important player for your team, especially in the playoffs as other players start to go down. Maybe that would be the one concern with Colorado, is that they've kind of shown that they're, I don't know, are they soft? They're putting themselves in bad situations. They're getting themselves hurt. They're so fast that when they are getting hit, that it's causing problems physically. I'm not exactly sure the reason that they're having all these injuries, but they just so happen to be destroyed by them this year. So maybe just unlucky, but I mean, even Cale Makar only played 57 games.
Yeah, that's not bad. And for a team that was so injured, they still managed to finish number 6 in terms of goals against, which is pretty dang good for a team that, I mean, obviously has lost a lot of star power, and their starting goaltender who's going to be back. So that's even better.
Yep. And of course, there's always the Nathan McKinnon factor. 93 points in 69 games, mostly doing it by himself. Like half the year, it felt like he was on his own doing it with random line mates from the AHL.
Yeah, Andrei Burakovsky, Rantanen would show up, and then Tyler Jost. I mean, it'd be mixed matches of lines going on for this guy.
Yeah.
But he still produced.
The only thing he can't do is win a draw. He's like 43% from the faceoff circle. That's horrendous for a top line like superstar. 43%. I feel like I could win more faceoffs with my eyes closed, just pulling back. Right?
Well, and maybe, I mean, look, they've got Landeskog. Maybe just throw him in there and let him take some faceoffs, because at least if you can't win it clean, Landeskog could probably win it a little dirty.
Yeah, Kadri is at 56.8%.
Yeah, he's your guy you want taking all your big faceoffs for sure.
Yeah. I mean, goaltending wise, Colorado it got interesting because Pavel
Francouz.
That's how you say it.
Yeah, Francouz.
He comes in when Philip Grubauer goes down and plays very well. I mean, 21-7. A 9.23 save percentage. He was the better goalie. Who starts in the playoffs, and he's older actually.
Yeah, that's right.
29, and Grubauer's 28. They basically started the exact same amount of games, right around 36.
Yeah, so. Hutchinson's starting for them for sure.
Michael Hutchinson.
No, honestly, you're going Grubauer at this point, and it's just because he has the experience, right? He's their starting goaltender. He's their guy. Now, if he's the guy of the future, that might be another, story in a few years. But for now, it's Philip Grubauer's net, and I think it's his to lose. So I think they're gonna go with him. He's done it before. He was put in charge of the Washington Capitals. That didn't work out too well, but
Yeah,
this is your guy.
His one real playoff run.
This is your guy, and so I think they'll go Grubauer. It'll be a short leash again because, like you said, the numbers for Pavel were not too shabby this season. So they'll give him an opportunity.
He had a really good playoff last year in 12 games, 9.25 save percentage, 2.3 goals against. Yeah, he played fine.
But I think both these guys are going to see. I think you'll get Pavel. In for at least a game just to get his legs up.
Yeah, sure.
But again, it's Grubauer's net.
Because they're going to play 3 games against, everyone's going to play each other once. So you got to think that somebody's getting 1 game and the other guy's going to get 2. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's go to our last Western Conference team, the Las Vegas Golden Knights. This team had a weird regular season. They finished with only 86 points. Gerard Gallant gets fired. Pete DeBoer comes in, relatively turns things around. I mean, I'd say that this season was kind of this, a lot of expectations were not met. I think you expected a little more out of Mark Stone, although he still was almost a point per game player, but his 21 goals, I think maybe you were thinking he
at $9.5 million, I think you need a little bit more production.
You had someone like William Karlsson kind of almost sort of falling off the map. Only 15 goals from his from his 40 a couple years ago, and this team didn't show up the way that you thought they would. They found their way back. They won enough games. They got into these top 4. Max Pacioretty, though, the one kind of, I guess, bright light for this whole year, 32 goals, 66 points. He finally plays the way that they were hoping, and the guy that they thought they got when they paid him that $7+ million contract. But despite their regular season not exactly being the cleanest, I think this team might be the scariest team in the Western Conference.
They could be, but to me, they almost resemble, maybe outside of goaltending and big names on defense, they up front anyways, they resemble the Winnipeg Jets to me.
When you think lack of defense, stars on defense.
When you look at the forward position, that's where I see the resemblance, because you've got strong wingers, guys who can score goals, play hard, and go fast, but they lack center depth. Because William Karlsson, he can play. He would be a good number 2 center, but he's not a number 1 in my opinion.
Sure.
So when you look past him, your next guy is Paul Stastny, but to me, he's not a number 1 center either.
But a number 2, like a decent number 2.
Yeah. And again, if push comes to shove and you really have to, produce, can you rely on these 2 guys, because again, we saw it, like both these guys were up and down all year long. The production was never consistent. It's not where it should be, especially for a guy like, William Karlsson. Obviously, we weren't expecting another 40-goal year from him.
But you're still thinking that he's probably going to be
a 60-point guy.
At 20,
least.
I mean, he had 56 points last year, 24 goals. You're hoping for a 20-goal score. He probably would have gotten 20 when all is said and done. But sure, definitely has taken a step backwards from that 2017-18 year. Yeah,
absolutely. And then
he won the Lady Byng.
There you go. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, they can be scary up front, though. That's the thing, because they are so quick, and they do have nice depth, right? They got guys like Alex Tuck, Thomas Nosek, Ryan Reeves, guys who can produce and chip in every now and again.
Ryan Reeves got an extension recently, too.
I'm excited about that. I love his game.
Paul Stastny has been a really nice playoff guy, though. Even going back to 13-14, 10 points in 7 games. He's had 13-20, 3-7, 15-17, 8 points last year in 7 games in a series that, for all intents and purposes, they probably should have won against the San Jose Sharks. He averaged more than 20 minutes a game in that series.
Yeah, and it's probably going to be the same again.
I think Paul Stastny can be really good. It's just more in a maybe a defensive shutdown type of role is where he's really successful. But this team is I think they're somewhat underrated because of the season that they had, but also, maybe the luster has kind of gone off of this team. Mark Stone in the playoffs, so we don't. I know that last year they made the playoffs. They had the unfortunate end to what happened. He had 12 points in 7 games.
Yeah, he was on fire.
I mean, he was unbelievable in the playoffs last year. Yeah, and if he can do that again, how often do we see a guy get almost 2 points a game in the playoffs and lose the series?
Right.
He had a goal per game basically in that, and he lost, but I don't see them losing again in the first round. I think that this team this year, especially, they were one of the least lucky teams in the NHL. We're back to matching up with a few teams. The only teams more unlucky than the Vegas Golden Knights, the LA Kings, the San Jose Sharks, and the Detroit Red Wings. The Detroit Red Wings were the least lucky team in the NHL. 96.6 on the PDO, but Vegas 98.8, 28th in terms of, I guess, almost like your puck luck, your PDO. So they're far down that list. That's huge. I mean, despite an incredibly unlucky year in terms of statistically speaking over the course of the whole year, they still managed to be in the top 4 in their conference, despite being the 4th least lucky team. So that is saying something about their resolve and that they're getting scoring at the right time
and doing it with a coaching change. Like, how many teams keep succeeding?
And Pete DeBoer said that this is the best team that he's coached.
Yeah, that's scary. And they also, you go back to defense, right? Now they've added Alec Martinez back there. So that guy, he's seen some playoff success.
That's true.
You've got his autograph.
I believe he has a Stanley Cup winning goal.
He does. Yeah. Don't you have his autograph? No? Do you not?
No, I don't think that he's on the wall back
Okay.
here. No, I actually, when I was, for those of you that don't know, I have a collection of Stanley Cup winning goal scorers. And when he scored that winning goal for the Kings, about a year later, I saw the puck was up for auction. I think it went for like $3,500.
Okay.
Which, in the grand scheme of things, isn't...
Was it signed, though?
It was signed.
Okay.
No, it was the puck.
Well, no, I know it was the puck, but I was just...
Oh, it was signed. Yeah, of course. It was signed, and it said like Stanley Cup winning puck or something like that. But $3,500, it's not that much for like something cool like that, but it was Alec Martinez, so I didn't really want it that bad. But the problem is that if it was Austin Matthews, it would be worth $10 million.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Like some
Ridiculous.
Leafs fan would pay out their asshole for it. So.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The bigger question for me, though, goaltending. We know it's Marc-Andre Fleury, right?
Sure, we know
he's
who will be
probably
the
going to
goalie.
be the guy.
Yeah.
But didn't have the greatest regular season. You got a guy who comes in by the name of Robin Lehner, who was lights out his 3 games he was there.
Absolutely lights out.
Do they give him a look, Because this is a guy who... It's funny because NHL.com, because you know how Marc-Andre Fleury is the go-to man, but
Sure.
Maybe he's getting up there in years a little bit more, and NHL.com actually ranked Robin Lehner as the 16th best goaltender.
Higher than Fleury.
Well, yeah, they had him higher than Fleury.
Yeah.
Some of them did. I'm like, are you, like, really? Like, I mean, do people really think at this point they're going to go to Lehner over Fleury?
We'll see what happens here early on. Fleury has usually had good starts. And man, he's just got so much experience in the playoffs. I want to say that you stick with him because you still have some years left with him too.
Right. Yeah, you got 2 years. He's the Stanley Cup winner.
And you don't know if Lehner is going to be back.
No, I don't think so. I don't think
Leonard's
the cap situation, they'll...
UFA.
Yeah.
I just, unless you plan on getting rid of him, I can't see them going to Lehner. I can see them giving, all right, we're going to give Fleury a game, we're going to give Lehner a game, and if Fleury just dumps the bed, they might go, hey, we're going to give Lehner this other game, see how he does.
Yeah, I could see it.
And it's just going to be I just don't know. Like, can you do that to him again? It already happened to him once.
It'd be really funny is if they sign Lehner to an extension, and then
I mean, you might be able to trade Marc-Andre Fleury.
No, but you keep Fleury too, and then the expansion draft happens, and he goes to Seattle. Like,
true, forgot about that.
That would just be funny to me, but I doubt it will happen, anyways.
Yeah.
But,
okay, so out of these 4 teams, who do you think goes the furthest in these playoffs?
I think Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah, while I think St. Louis is built for the playoffs, I think they were obviously riding a lot of momentum. I think, obviously going from last to first, you have so much to play for. And again, they still have a lot to play for with Jay Bouwmeester. But to me, I think, people know what to expect out of this team. They know how hard they're going to play. I just think it's time for Colorado, in my opinion.
I think out the gun, they're going to be the scariest because they just have so much skill.
They're fresh.
Yeah. They're going to be scary. I still think that Colorado will win whoever they face in round 1. Round 2, I don't know who they're going to play, but it's going to be tough because if you win a few of these games and you're the 1 seed, you might get a lesser team even in the second round because they're going to reseed every time.
Right.
So you're going to keep getting the lowest of the seeds. But man, if you have to come in, I actually don't think that Colorado will beat any of these 4 teams.
You don't think they'll beat
in a
any of them?
7-game series, any of these 4 teams. I think they can beat any of the other teams in a 7-game. I don't think they could beat any of these teams in a 7-game series. Okay. I don't think they'd beat St. Louis. I don't even know if they'd beat Dallas.
Well, I would think they'd beat Dallas. I have no doubt.
And
I don't think
Dallas is so sneaky, shut down.
They're sneaky good, but I think, and especially come playoff time, right? You do get in a lot of those tight games.
So healthy,
but I think if you get into any kind of shootout, especially like we saw last year with San Jose, and
but
Vegas,
Dallas doesn't get into shootouts.
But that's the thing. If it happens to turn that way, where you have to go goal for goal to keep up, Dallas won't keep up.
It's true. That's true.
That could hurt them.
I guess with everyone being healthy, Colorado could certainly beat Dallas.
Yeah.
I don't see the other two, the St. Louis and Vegas. I just think that I think they stack up well against Colorado. I think they can slow them down, especially St. Louis. I think St. Louis can slow Colorado down.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, look at when you talk about goals against this year, St. Louis and Dallas were both better in terms of total goals against for the season.
Sure,
but again, Colorado's been injured all year long, and they still managed to finish sixth best in the league. So if they get Rantanen, McKinnon back, they play puck possession, and they'll just keep the puck away from you.
I will say this: I want Colorado to beat out all these teams because it would be fun to see Colorado.
Yeah, they would be the most fun.
Back playing against some of these Eastern Conference teams that are. I would love to see Colorado and Edmonton go head to head in the first round. That is what I'm just crossing.
Yeah, well, you got to hope Colorado maybe finishes fourth, and then some couple lower seed teams win.
Yeah, the Oilers are what 10 or something, or no. They're 5, right?
Yeah.
They would probably, they're not going to play them in the first round.
But still, would be really fun for a conference final would be Colorado Vegas. Like that would just be enjoyable.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just I don't necessarily love watching Dallas, so I'm more than happy to see them get eliminated earlier.
Right.
I can appreciate what they're trying to do there, but I don't really like I don't need this old school let's all play defense and let's really drag the game out. It's not really where the game's going. I know it's almost like a throwback a bit the way they play, but I'd much rather see St. Louis. To me, isn't that way. They can score.
No, they've got new school and old school,
yes,
which is great.
Yes,
I love it.
I can appreciate what they do. I don't think that they have the same. There's not going to be that weird intangible about what they're going to do. I don't think they're going to repeat.
I will say, obviously Colorado I think will go furthest, but if I had to put my money on anybody to go furthest, St. Louis is safer.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, that's a good point. After the Eastern Conference show, we'll get Stanley Cup final prediction. We'll get our initial little, who do you think will win the cup? I also want to know, I guess before we do that show though, which conference do you think will win the Stanley Cup?
That's a good question. That's a real good question. I'm going to save it for the Eastern show.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
I'm going to save it.
We'll save it for the East.
Give it a little thought.
All right. That sounds good. Well, there is your top 4 teams in the Western Conference. A little preview on all those teams. You can find us on Twitter. Let us know what you think. Let us know who you think what conference will win the Stanley Cup. And if you want to get as specific as a team, go for it. And we'll be there on Twitter in between shows. We'll talk to you guys soon.